Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Feedback Friday for Friday, July 15, 2016. Davey and Nelson sitting alongside David Hero here on the, we're literally at the midpoint of July.
Of the summer.
Well, summer started June 20th, so technically the summer solstice.
Oh, okay. Summer starts for me Memorial Day weekend.
Is that right?
Yeah.
For most it does.
Yeah.
For most it does.
Oh, but you're a special individual?
No, I'm saying the actual defined start of summer is with the summer solstice, which is either July 20th or June 20th or 21st.
Winter starts like in what, November?
I think it's December 20th, 21st.
Yeah.
After the apocalypse.
The apocalypse?
Isn't that December 8th or December 13th or 20th or something? It happens every year.
I thought it was December 10th.
December who?
10th.
December 10th?
Yeah.
December what 10th?
I don't know.
Something 10th?
Yeah.
Let's get to this week's top story, folks. And Tuesday night, on the first live weekly SmackDown, the WWE draft will commence, and stars will be drafted to either Raw or SmackDown. Nothing newsworthy there. However, there are bound to be some surprising picks for each shows by the respective GMs, but that will only represent the stars that we are seeing on both shows. What about behind the scenes? Now, WWE has long been run, and all stories have been filtered through WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, which means that no matter what, everything the company produces ultimately has the same feel. But there's one key exception: NXT. Now, that got me wondering. That got me wondering.
There is something wrong with my heart when I watch NXT.
That got me wondering. What will WWE do? Will they go all the way and make substantial changes to the way SmackDown is run behind the scenes? Now, we do know there will be separate writing teams for the two shows, which will help. But if those teams are ultimately going through McMahon, they will all still feel the same. Now, the reason NXT has been able to feel so different is because Triple H is wholly in charge of the brand, and Vince apparently is not heavily involved or involved at all in the brand. What if this were all a test on a bigger scale for Triple H, and he is given full control of SmackDown? Can the magic be recreated on Tuesdays? Now, we know that Vince is highly competitive. We also know that Triple H is the heir apparent to the company. So why not? Why not take this opportunity to create some real competition between the two shows and the two men on SmackDown and Raw?
I think that would be very interesting. SmackDown's going to have a different look and feel to it. They have to.
Right?
Well, when you make that big of a deal about who the GM or the whatever it is of SmackDown, and
you got the commissioners and Shane and Steph, and then you got the general managers who.
Wasn't it crazy that Shane celebrated like he won the World Series?
Well, I think it's all part of making SmackDown look bigger than it is, because it's going to be.
Right. Agrees. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be because they're so used to having that formula. And now they're going to shake it up.
It's time to shake things up again.
I don't think it's going to have an NXT feel to it, though.
Not asking if it will have an NXT feel, but will it, in order to keep it different, do you agree or disagree that it needs to funnel up through a different creative process?
Yes. And I think that's going to happen. There is a different creative team already in place for SmackDown.
Just like last time, though, there was a different creative team in place for SmackDown, but they all still went through that one person, Vince McMahon. Right. NXT doesn't go through Vince McMahon.
Well, and from what I understand is Vince has made his circle much smaller. He's not as easily as accessible. So who knows?
Stepping out a little bit?
A little bit, yes. Yes.
But still, everything goes through Vince.
Of course, and it has to. Why not? I mean, the guy's been successful.
Oh, absolutely.
Say what
I'm
you
not
want
faulting
about,
it at all. I'm just simply saying if the two shows are supposed to feel and look different, there is not an instance where we can show that Vince McMahon has done that with separate brands under his WWE umbrella.
Agreed. I agree.
It has been done with NXT and it has been done with Triple H. So does this become the opportunity for it to truly be two distinctly different brands, with Vince McMahon still nursing his baby Raw, and Triple H...
That sounds so weird how you said that, just like...
and Triple H nursing his newborn SmackDown.
Yeah.
Which will create natural competition, which will make Vince better, it'll make Triple H better, it'll make both shows better as well.
No, I like your theory. I think it could be very exciting.
How do you think Vince feels about NXT, from what he knows about it?
I think he likes the fact that it's making him money.
Right, yes.
You know, I mean, they're doing great merch sales. Their NXT stars are now in the action figure line.
Yeah, as is Mean Gene Okerlund, I understand.
Yes, he has a Build-A-Figure coming out. The Walmart exclusive.
So but Vince is aware of the success of NXT.
Yes.
And the success without his involvement. So do you think that could have been an eye-opening or a watershed moment for him to say, you know what? And because Triple H is getting the company, right?
I think the eye-opening watershed moment was when you have John Cena, you have Seth Rollins, you have all those guys getting hurt. Sting last year, just boom. All these top guys that they had getting hurt, missing time, Roman Reigns, that you needed to then create more stars. And the only way to do that is to have separate brands, separate writing teams, so more guys get more opportunities.
Is it not true, though, that those injuries, if happened during the brand extension, would have actually somewhat derailed it, like it happened back in the first couple of times today? Remember when Kurt Angle got switched back and forth after I think Cena got injured or somebody got injured, and Angle had to go? I think he was the ECW champion or something like that. I think those injuries could be more of a detriment in the split situation. But if Triple H is the heir to the company, if Vince McMahon has selected, and it seems to be that way, that Triple H is going to be the person who takes his company to the next level once he is gone, then don't you want to stand alongside him and watch him run the company to a degree? And is this not the opportunity for him to be allowed to do so on one of the two shows?
Oh, absolutely it is. It's a great opportunity.
If they don't have a different final decision maker.
But I honestly believe that Shane will run SmackDown.
Entirely.
Yeah.
That's another... That could be incredibly interesting because, you know, we saw the Shane podcast, right? And he said a lot but said nothing. But he said a lot all at the same time. And one of the big things he said was he had differences with the future of the company with his father. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yes.
And he left as a result of it. Is this the makeup? Is this the make good? Is this the reconciliation between those two? Because Shane, truth, fact, was never supposed to be back in WWE this long.
No.
Let alone now entering a long-term situation where he's going to be in charge of one of the companies. That could be incredibly interesting if Shane were actually fully in charge behind the scenes of everything SmackDown as well. He hasn't proven himself to his father yet, though.
No, but
being able to do that piece of the business.
But I think he will. And I wouldn't be surprised if him and Triple H work together on some of this stuff.
Isn't that weird?
No.
Just a little bit.
Why?
Okay. Your dad has given the company to your daughter's husband.
Well, he's been there. If I leave, I can't be that upset about it.
True. It would be a little awkward.
Okay.
Well, I, for one, hope that we have substantial changes behind the scenes and that each brand is indeed separate, because that will be the formula for success of this version of the brand extension. Now, when we come back, folks, we have your comments on Brock Lesnar, final deletion from TNA, and, of course, more discussion on everyone's favorite,
love final deletion,
Roman Reigns. All that in just a few seconds right here, folks, on #Feedback Friday. Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report Feedback Friday. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero here on Friday, July 15th, 2016.
How do you go back to May?
Well, May was a good month.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
When I was 17,
Okay.
it was a very good year.
Please, we need comments here.
I'd rather sing Sinatra for the rest of the episode. Is that okay?
All right, good.
Last week on Primetime, we discussed the chances of a Lesnar win at UFC 200, along with the impact of a win or loss at the event. Now, tomorrow on Primetime, we review what's next for Brock Lesnar, but a few of you had some responses to our comments after the fight ended on Saturday. YouTube user Mark Carter said of the fight, and I quote, "Mark Hunt was paid to job to Lesnar. Let's be real. Did you even bother to watch that second round? Neither competitor wanted to touch each other. This match was a joke."
Yeah, because
Lesnar took round 1, Hunt took round 2, Lesnar took round 3, and ultimately a unanimous decision in the fight.
I just get a kick out of people that have never been in a UFC fight, think they know that they didn't want to touch each other.
Well, I mean, that's his interpretation of what he watched on TV. Now, it can be said that perhaps after the dust has settled, and if you look at them side by side, Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar, it seems to be a bit of a mismatch.
There was some touching going on.
There was some touching going on, yes. But round two was a slower round than round one, and obviously
let's see. Brock Lesnar is what, 6'4", 270.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hunt's probably what, 6 foot, 260.
And 42 years old. Now, Brock's not far behind him. What is Brock, 37?
39.
38? 39, really?
39.
Brock Lesnar? Huh.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that comment, Mark Carter. Do you think the fight was fixed? Was he paid to job?
No.
Last week, we also talked about the final deletion match between the Hardys and Impact, spurring a few comments as well. YouTube user JudgeMan03 said, and quote, "The problem with the final deletion is, where do they go from there? Are they going to change their entire product to match the style of Crash Cinema TV, or are they going to let it be its own universe? If they do the former, they run the risk of taking it too far. The final deletion worked because it was so different. If everything is the final deletion, then nothing is the final deletion. If they go to the latter, then they risk alienating the new fans that watched the match with the product that hasn't brought them ratings before this event. It's like a genre-based band that gets a pop hit. Do you sell out or plow ahead?" Incredibly well written by that user.
It was, I mean, it was a one-off. I mean, they're not going to do those kind of vignettes and matches again.
Well, but the story continued on Impact this past Tuesday
Right.
on Pop.
Right.
The Gardener still has a pivotal role. The dilapidated boat still has a pivotal role in the storyline.
Who would have ever thought we'd be talking about a dilapidated boat
And
on
a
a
gardener.
pro wrestling show?
Who I forget the gardener's name, but there was some in-ring interaction between the two as well, but they're still using a lot of this. The story continues, and it doesn't appear as if the final deletion was the final story step in this story. But it is a good question. Where does that whole story go from there? And really, from a wrestling storyline standpoint, I can't even imagine what's next for Hardy, but I also am intrigued by that.
Matt and Jeff and Jeremy Borash have done an amazing job producing these segments.
Mm-hmm.
It's something different. I mean, if you're flipping through the channels and you stop, you're going to stop and watch because you're like, what is this?
Well, I don't think flipping will get you past Pop, but yes, you're right.
But you know what I mean,
Yes.
right? Yeah, and you know what? Good for them. Good for doing something different. Is it cheesy? Sure. Is it hokey? Yeah. Corny, of course. But
should that become what the TNA product is?
no,
It's part of the question.
that was
I would
about
ask.
the Hardys, not
It was
TNA.
about the story within TNA.
Yes.
Charles Duncan also had comments on the match saying, and I quote, "Final deletion is the best thing I've seen in wrestling in a very long time. So funny. Broken Matt Hardy is the best. Broken Matt Hardy is the best Will Ferrell character that Will Ferrell never made."
Oh, I agree. Broken Matt is like nails on a chalkboard at times.
Yeah. And that hair. I can't get beyond that hair. With the gray part, you know.
He's like Cruella de Vil.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
All you're missing
Disney
is
villain.
a bunch of Dalmatians.
How many?
You know? But, well, 101, yeah. You know? But I think Maxwell's gotten over like $1 million.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And the Gardener. The Gardener's going to be taking indie bookings pretty soon.
That's what's great. Yes.
We will see the Gardener at WrestleCon next year signing autographs.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Folks, we also discussed the hot button issue of Roman Reigns on last week's Feedback Friday. Surprise, surprise, prompting a comment from a user by the name of the Variety Vendor saying, listen to this one closely, David here. It's pretty thought-provoking. Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan, Stone Cold, The Rock, Bruno Sammartino, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and yes, even John Cena. All are great, well-rounded characters. Roman isn't clicking with the fans. I'm not going to disrespect you like a lot of the hateful sheep out there, but WWE needs the one guy to drive the ticket sales. I believe it's a babyface Seth Rollins. No one on the roster can be as well-rounded as the Mount Rushmore of wrestling I mentioned before. More than babyface Seth Rollins.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Hold on. Hulk Hogan. His first run as Hulk Hogan was rather uneventful.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena, when he came in as Ruthless Aggression, wasn't that great either.
Beat Kurt Angle.
He did not beat him.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
The Rock came
He was
in
a prototype, by the way,
as
before that.
Rocky Maivia, was not great. Austin was the ringmaster.
Rocky, die.
Austin was the ringmaster.
With the $1 Million Championship.
Daniel Bryan, before he got the beard and the yes thing,
Got suspended.
okay. Ric Flair, before he became Ric Flair, was nowhere near the guy he is.
Yeah.
So we're basing Roman Reigns' first 3 years against guys after they already had a hell of a run.
It didn't take a lot of those guys 3 years. It took The Rock maybe a year. It took John Cena maybe 6 months.
It took The Rock 2 years.
It
took Cena at least a year and a half,
Rock
maybe 2
immediately
years.
after the Survivor Series 96 debut, by February of the next year, he was moving into the nation, and he was...
No, it was not.
Yeah, he was.
He got hurt. He went to WrestleMania, beat the Sultan, booed out of the building, blew out a shoulder or something, sat home for a while.
Wasn't that long, though.
Oh, dude.
By the end of 97, he was back in it. Okay, fine. A year, 2 years, it was still...
But we're going off of... But we're comparing Roman Reigns, his first run, against guys that took 2 or 3 to finally get there.
The more important question here is, who is a better man to put the sail on? A babyface Seth Rollins or a babyface Roman Reigns?
Well, Seth Rollins wasn't a babyface.
The question is, if he were, could he be better than Roman Reigns?
Sure, if he was the baby. If the roles were reversed, sure. But that's after we've already seen how it played out. But at the time, I mean, who knew?
Right. Well, and Seth obviously had that untimely injury, and the photos. And finally, we fielded a question on Twitter via our account at PWR Show from @Blanchard Buzz, who's long been a follower and commenter on the show, asking, and I quote, "So if Stephanie McMahon names Triple H the GM of Raw, do we see the first hour exclusively for the NXT roster?" Interesting question.
Not at all. Because NXT will be exclusive to the network, because if you give it away for free, people aren't going to want to watch NXT.
NXT has to remain outside of the NBC Universal umbrella, because to the point of the earlier conversation, it then becomes not a thing if it becomes mainstream. Right now, what's partially cool about NXT is it's still somewhat underground. The underdog from the underground, Sami Zayn. It's still somewhat underground. It's got to be that way to maintain its popularity. Now, if this were to happen, let's say it was the first hour, third hour, whatever, was NXT, it'd get a spike, it'd get ratings, people would watch it, but ultimately, eventually, it would be diluted and dissolved into the WWE brand. That's not the point of NXT, and I don't think WWE wants NXT to represent their brand overall on a national television scale.
No.
Because it doesn't match up.
No.
The content matches up and sometimes exceeds, but the overall look, while brilliantly fantastic, doesn't match up to the spectacle that is Raw, SmackDown, and their specials on the USA Network. But thank you for that comment, Blanchard Buzz. So, thank you to all of you for those comments. Some real good, thoughtful, insightful comments this week.
And people use the spell check gimmick.
Or they just knew how to spell naturally. I mean, that does still happen in this world.
Okay.
And in order to have your comment considered, all you need to do is comment on the YouTube channel here for the show. And let's preview what we're going to see tomorrow on Primetime, David Hero, as well, because we got things going on here. So be sure to follow us on social media, and we will interact with you at PWR Show on Twitter, Facebook.com/PWR Show. And we're also on Instagram at PWR Show on Instagram as well. But we're going to see you tomorrow night at 10 o'clock on Primetime TV with discussion of the announcement that Shane O'Mac is going to run SmackDown and Stephanie is going to be running Raw, along with what's next for Finn Balor after this Wednesday's matchup with Nakamura, and WWE actually copying TNA. Along with a look, along with a look at the huge debut and return on Impact Wrestling this week. All that hot news from WWE, TNA, ROH, NXT, along with DWHS, which, you know, I don't know why we still even do that, and more. That's going to be on My24 Milwaukee, Fight TV, and YouTube and PWRshow.com. That's all tomorrow night. Are you ready for Primetime, David Hero?
I cannot wait.
With that, folks, thank you so much for tuning in for that one. This is Damian Nelson. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time for Primetime Television.